Hey guys, welcome in. It's the D&E PrepZone Game Time show for our playoff edition. And guys, we've got 5 different teams in the playoffs. And I think we've got a lot of road warriors out there. So that may not be a good sign. We've got one team hosting, which is Addison. Why don't y'all break down a couple, just who we've got playing where. Johnathan, you take this side, and then we'll let Brian take this side.
Okay, we have Dora making a very long trip to Huntsville, actually Madison. Madison Academy, number 2 in the state, which came here last year. You remember that?
Right, they came to Jasper.
They came to Jasper, they dropped a class, and now they're undefeated.
Right.
And then we got Addison at home against
Colbert County.
Colbert, I was going to say Cherokee.
For everybody at home, Johnathan messed this up this week on our picks on the limb. He told everybody they were playing Cherokee County. I think he was trying to gain a game somehow. But it is Colbert County who will be coming to Addison.
They're both 7-3. I mean, both those county teams. Addison, record not as good this year, but they had a tough schedule.
They did have a really tough schedule. Play some larger schools like Haleville and that sort of thing. Hamilton.
On the road.
Right.
Just tough.
Yeah, oh yeah. So those 2 games, we'll give our picks later, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, Brian. You go with these 3.
Well, starting right here, and I do believe this will be our WJLX game of the week.
Right.
As the Winston County Yellow Jackets, they will be facing off against Red Bay. Don't know what their mascot is.
Right.
Anyway, they're not in our area.
Something red, probably.
Tigers. Mm-hmm. Very interesting matchup, as of course with that whole region came down to tiebreakers, and Winston County is going to be on the road, but they're kind of a tough 3.
Yeah.
So we have that one. Summoning Christian, they have one of the shorter trips.
That's right.
They've just got to go next county over. They're going to be taking on a team that we often see a whole lot playing our other teams. They're going to be taking on Berry, and that's going to be a little bit wild also as well.
Yeah, and you know, we really thought Summoning Christian kind of turned a corner, and then they struggled against Meek last week. Mm-hmm. So that I don't know, where we're at that point. All right, how about Oakman? Where are they going?
Well, Oakman has...
they're going like 3 states over, aren't they?
Yeah, Oakman has quite a drive over. They have to play Fife.
Right.
And quite possibly, actually, our most interesting matchup, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and to me, we'll see which Oakman team shows up, but man, Fife that's a tough draw for Oakman to have to go on the road to Fife.
It is, but Fife is brand new to Class 3A. And,
that's right.
They haven't faced quite the opponents that Oakman has
this
year.
That's true. Playing up there in that corner of the state, it's not the best football, especially the larger your school gets. It's not the best football in the state. So definitely Oakman has a shot in this one. Since it is the playoff edition, we've had a couple guests that we've invited to come in. We've got Cordova coach Justin Palmer, and then we've got Meek's head coach Houston Powell. Houston used to be an assistant at Dora, so he knows a lot about Dora. And then his team played Summerton Christian this year and also Winston County. So he's going to break down those games for us and what those teams are like. And then Coach Palmer, his team played Dora to open the year, and then they played Oakman. So he'll break down those teams for us. We don't have a local coach really who played Addison this year. So we'll have to talk about Addison ourselves, which you don't get any more experts than us.
We can talk Addison.
Yeah, we can talk Addison. So what we'll do right now is we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have Coach Powell from Meek, and you guys will be talking to him about his teams that he's faced this year so far. Welcome in, everybody. James Phillips here. It's a late night at the Desert Mountain Eagle studio. Brian Hale, how's it going, man? And comes out with a 1-point double overtime win, 35-34. The Vikings remain undefeated.
One of the assistants told me I think they're 5 points away from being 4-1.
Corner just completely turned road, and they came out in the second half. They scored 20 points on 5 plays.
Cordova makes the playoffs. Who would have thought in week 5 that we would have said the Cordova Blue Devils are going to reel off 4 straight wins and clinch a playoff berth?
Well, I just think the first half was really Harmon Hill got after. I mean, they were playing with a little bit more effort and toughness, and
just glad to catch it. Good, it was a good throw. Won the game.
Welcome back, everybody, and we have another special guest with us, Meek head coach Houston Powell. Coach, your first year with the Tigers, and you guys made some significant improvements. Of course, they've had a couple of years in which the wins hadn't come up. You got a big one against county foe Lynn, and the game against Summoning Christian was just an absolute fight, and that's, I would say, it's definitely changed the outlook of the kids for coming into this year and going into next year.
No doubt. I just feel like our season was a lot different than a normal first-year head coach season. We didn't get spring training, so we couldn't work out from beginning of March until June, and then when we get to June, you can only have groups of 10, so you can't really get that team camaraderie going on. So that really kind of affected the culture we were wanting to build, because it's like you got to teach it to 10 kids for an hour and a half, and then you get 10 more for an hour and a half, and it becomes a little bit of a struggle. Then, we get in the season, we got a whole new offense, whole new defense. We haven't been able to see it in pads, and we've got 3 weeks to prepare for a game. So for us, it was almost like the first half of our season was more of like a spring training for us. We moved a lot of guys each week. We were constantly plugging guys, trying to find the right fit. We didn't really start becoming a team until our bye week, which was right after the Hubbertville week. We made a few changes, did a few things differently on offense and defense, made a complete change defensively. We went from the 4-3 to the 4-4. And then we go into the Marion County game and started off great, but our kids are so young that we had a great first half. We go into halftime, we're down by 7, and we just haven't got to that point to finish, Then the next week we play against Lynn. They haven't beat Lynn since 2015. Big rivalry game. I probably approach rivalry games different than other head coaches. Some head coaches say, we're going to treat every game the same. That wasn't really my mentality. My mentality is, you only get one rivalry game a year, let's blow this thing up, all right? So I made it like it was the Super Bowl all week. And our guys played their butts off. It was a great game. As a coach, you hate it coming down to a last-second field goal because it's extremely stressful. But when you win those, it's amazing for the fans. It's great for the kids. And then we turn around and we play Pickens County, and we score on them right off the bat. Opening drive, we score on them. We contain them pretty well. It's just when we get to the fourth quarter, their last resort is to throw it up into the air. Well, when you've got a 6'2" guy that can dunk a basketball against a corner that can't, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's just a better athlete against an average athlete. So I felt like we were doing some good things, and we did Berry week. We knew going in was going to be really tough. Their program is on a whole different level than we are right now, and it showed that they're our region champs. So it showed how much we've got to work towards. And then we go to Summoning Christian, and we're up 22-0 at halftime. And, our starting running back gets hurt on the opening kickoff. We had to make some changes, and we just couldn't run between the tackles, and that really affected the outcome of the game. And I hate it for our seniors. It's so easy for a program to shut it down and just be like, last game of the year, like, I'm moving on to basketball. I was proud of how our guys competed. And every week we competed, and we got a little better each week. And man, I'm going to be honest with you. And what a lot of people don't know is that we had 2 seniors on offense and we had 2 seniors on defense. On offense, our whole offensive line was sophomores who had never played a varsity snap before. Our tight end was a freshman. Our quarterback is a junior, but he had never played quarterback before. So our offense was extremely young. Defensively, we only had 2 seniors on defense. And out of the 11 guys, 8 of them had never played a varsity snap until this year. So we're extremely young. And so our future is really bright. We've had some kids come in that want to be a part of our program that we're really excited about being a part of it. And so they're going to do nothing but help it. So the future at Meek, for me, is very, very exciting. It's a great place to be, great atmosphere, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned that Lynn game. How big a load was it off y'all's shoulders for the kids and for you personally?
So, leading up to that game, we had talked about, we talked about the power of moments, how in football, you only get a limited amount of moments, and it's special to have those. And I said, being a Meek Tiger, you walk around our community, you go to Arley Coffee Shop, and they love talking about their glory days. Well, if you don't win any games, you don't get to talk about your glory days. So we talked all week about the power of moments and how it's a big rivalry game. And whoever wins this game is going to be sitting at the Arley coffee shop 20 years from now talking about it. So do you want good stories or you want bad stories? Because when somebody from Meek is asked, well, how'd y'all do against Lynn? Well, they either love to tell you about it or they don't want to tell you about it. So for our kids, it was about power of moments and trying to change the culture. And until that win, they had not won until October the 5th, 2018. Wow. It had been over 2 years since that program had found a win. So a lot of our players had never won a high school football game. And so as a head coach, trying to get people to experience that, to know what it feels like, it becomes very stressful. And to get that, and they got to feel that, it really sparked them, and it really helped our program the rest of the season in competing and working. And I mean, this whole week, we've already started our off-season program. I mean, we're doing weight room off-season. We've done our speed and agility every day. I mean, these kids didn't even second guess, like, hey, are we going to get a break? I mean, they're ready to go to work. So, man, it was a great feeling. That whole night was great. And I had fans that were so excited. We had people rushing the field, and they dumped the water cooler on me, and I let them do it. I didn't even care. So it was just a great experience for our program, and we really badly needed that. So,
well, Coach, and a lot of times, and this being your first year as a head coach is so remarkable. And then on top of that, there's all the craziness in the world with the COVID and so much uncertainty. What have you really learned this year, and what have the kids taught you? Because a lot of times the teacher becomes the student and vice versa.
I think as a young head coach, when I first got the job, it was all about what can I do to win? Like, where can I put this guy, or what scheme can we do to win? And that is a big part of it, don't get me wrong. And scheme is a big part. Your weight room is a big part. Your speed and agility, all those things are great. Organization is huge at practice. Weight room organization, taking care of your grades, and all those things, being excellent 24/7 is all great. But the more I started to really focus on what's really important, it comes down to one word, and that's just loving the kids and loving the program. And that's the one thing that I think that I'm glad I learned year one. And hats off to Ryan Hall at Oakman. We've become really good friends over 5 or 6 years, but this year especially, he's helped me out in more ways than he probably knows. He's a great guy, top-notch guy. He runs a great program over there at Oakman, and he's the one that kind of said, winning's great, but at the end of the year, no matter how many championships you've won, did the kids love your program, and do people love being a part of your program? Because if you've got that part, the winning will come. And so for me as a first-year coach, learning how to love the kids and getting the kids to love our program and love our coaching staff was big. And our kids truly do love Meek football. And our coaches love Meek football. And they love coming every day. I mean, we've got kids that I have to tell, get out of the locker room because I'm ready to go home and see my family. So which is a good problem to have. And so that was the biggest thing, is just loving being a part of something. And I think that was a big thing for me to figure out early, and I'm glad I did, because I've been around some coaches that didn't figure that out, and it was all about winning, and they won a lot of games, but at the same time, you don't have players coming back to visit you, which is a special thing to be a part of.
Hey, Coach, you talk about kind of laying the foundation this year. Who are some of the guys you got coming back?
So we got Matthew Clark coming back. He was out for 3 games. So he only played 7 games. Really, he only played 6.5 because he was out the second half of Summit and Christian. So in 6.5 games, he had. We haven't quite got all the stats in for the last game because we were a little slow on that. But he's probably bumping 1,000 yards. So and what's crazy about Matt is that running the wing T is we share the ball between our wing, fullback, and tailback, and he was bumping 1,000 yards in 6.5 games. Wow. So he's going to be coming back. He's going to be a huge threat for us offensively. We've got Ethan Grace coming back as a fullback. He rushed for close to 700 yards as a fullback. And Ethan Grace, if you don't know anything about Ethan Grace, he's not going to break an 80-yard run because he's going to get tackled from behind, but he's going to get 3 to 4 yards a pop. So, he's got 700 yards on 3 or 4 yard carries and just pounding it. So he's going to be a good help for us. We got our quarterback coming back, David Tidwell. David is the type of guy to where when you look at him, you're probably like, there's no way that kid's a quarterback. But that guy, when he puts the helmet on, he is a coach out on the field.
Wow.
He can tell the right guard who he's supposed to block. He can tell the tight end what route or what he's supposed to be doing on a certain scheme. He can tell the wing if he's coming in motion or if he's not. He is a great leader for us, and he's going to be coming back. And then our whole offensive line's coming back, which is big for us. And they were all sophomores, so we've got them for the next 2 seasons. So for us, having the offensive line is going to be really big. Defensively, we have got Xavier coming back. He played defensive end for us this past year. He was so physical at defensive end, and he actually got faster as the year went on. We're moving him to linebacker. I mean, he's a headhunter. He loves contact. He's going to be a big help for us. And then we've got Jarrett Benson, who is another defensive end. He plays our weak side end. He's a great pass rusher, and he's only a freshman. He'll be a sophomore next year. And man, I wish I could name all of our guys because our guys are so special. But those are kind of the main guys that's going to be coming back. But our freshman group is going to be a really good group. Braxton Dickerson's coming back. Justin Freeman's coming back. And so we got some big threats coming back next year that we're really excited about, and they're going to take the weight room serious. We're going to get faster. We're going to get stronger. So Meek football is looking really promising the next couple of years.
I love to hear a coach talk about a fullback. It's just so lost.
We love
Coach, it. Let's move on to 2 of the teams that you played this year to get some of the inspect. First, since they were a little bit further back from you when you played them, let's talk about Winston County. Obviously, we know about Austin Owens that he obviously has a good offensive line that opens the holes for him. Talk about those guys, what you saw them, and what a team has to do to really kind of stop that.
Oh, yeah. So we played Winston County game 2. So when they came to our place, game 2 for us, they had only played a jamboree against Lynn. And they'd really only played a first half, and then they went JV the second half. So we really only had like 60 clips of their varsity. And with a jamboree, you're like, well, is that guy really the starter? Are they rotating somebody? So we really weren't sure what they were really bringing to the table. Now, we obviously knew about the Owens kid, great ball carrier. He didn't really play much. But the times that he did play, it was like, he's got to be their guy. That's got to be their guy. There's no way it's not. Extremely, extremely explosive. I can't talk any more about that guy, how explosive he is. And like you said with the offensive line, those guys did a great job of not only knowing who to block, but staying on the blocks. And so to me, what it showed me is those guys took pride in it. And Owens must have good relationships with those guys because they were locking on, they were driving, and they were creating creases for that guy to do what he's best at. Because when he gets an open field, he becomes extremely dangerous. So the bigger the hole you make, the more dangerous he becomes. So, but yeah, their offense really did a number on us, obviously, with 63 points. Yeah, they're going to be able to score some points, especially if the offensive line continues to stay on blocks and creates those holes. Like I said, the bigger holes you can make for that guy, the more dangerous it's going to be, and the more frustrating that defense coordinator on the sideline is going to get because he's going to be thinking, how do we stop this guy? And it's really going to come down to, well, my defensive line and my linebackers got to fill these holes because they're too big, and it's allowing this guy to do what he's best at. And they had such a great run game against us that they didn't really have to throw much. So, I don't really know what their quarterback can do because it was week 2. Now, he looked good. I'll give him that. He definitely looked the part. He had good size. He looked like he had a decent arm. But, when you got a running back like that and you got an offensive line like that, I mean, your quarterback's really not a factor at that point. So, but they did a really good job offensively.
How you mentioned y'all had 3 guys carrying the ball. Why is it so hard to stop a guy when it's just one like that? I mean, he has 1,700 yards. He gets almost all the carries.
Yes.
Is it the line like you're talking about?
Yes, I think when you have like these playoff teams that Winston County's going to play, those guys, if they've had enough connections, probably have gotten every game film that they've played this year. Any coach is going to do whatever he can to get those. So they're going to have a lot more to dissect than we did, only having that one game film. So when they watch the game film, they're going to see maybe some tendencies. Because when you look at Winston County and you see their offensive line, all right, number one, they're going to lock onto their blocks. They're going to try to create big holes. They're going to try to get the edge with 21. They're going to try to, if they run between the tackles, they've got to get the hole big enough so he can be explosive. You know that's coming. So now you have to look at, all right, well, what are my strengths? All right, can my defensive line hold their own against this offensive line? If they can't hold their own against this offensive line, all right, well, what can I do with my linebackers? Can I pressure them? Do I need to send something off the edge? Do I need to run stunts with my defensive line to confuse the offensive line? Maybe kind of win a few battles by changing up their blocking scheme. My thing is you got to feel like, what is your confidence going into the game as a defensive coordinator? What are my pros and what are their cons? And you kind of have to expose that. Like Johnathan just said, how do you stop one guy? Well, if you don't have a guy on defense that you feel like, all right, my box guys are going to shut him down. Now, if you feel that way, hats off to you. Let's go play football. But if you look at him and you're like, well, we don't have a guy that can tackle him in open field. We don't have a guy that can just bear up and tackle him one-on-one. Well, now I got to go to the drawing board. All right? So how am I going to create more bodies around him and close the space? It's all about closing space on 21. And I think that, whatever that defensive coordinator decides to do against Winston County, his game plan has to be, how can I eliminate space around 21? And I really do think that if the defense can stop 21 and can stop that run game and kind of get that offensive line a little frustrated and they have to go to the throw game, I think in 2A football, in the playoffs, if you're making an offense play left-handed, which is throw the football and 21's not getting the ball, you got a better shot of winning. Because if you're being too arrogant, too cocky, and saying, well, we're just going to go out there and do what we do and play football, nah, not a good game plan in my opinion. So my thing is you got to stop 21. You got to eliminate the space because like y'all have seen all season long, you've looked at the stats, you've seen the numbers. That kid gets in space, he's bound to score. So you got to eliminate space. You got to eliminate space. And then another thing is for Winston County, defensively, I thought they did a great job against the wing tee. Our biggest thing is that if we get 4 yards, it's positive. 4 yards turns into first downs. So our goal is to get 4 yards of carry. Well, their defense did an incredible job stopping that. Now, we did get a few first downs, and we had a few good drives. But when we got in the red zone, their defense was kind of bend, don't break. I mean, we couldn't get it in. We couldn't get it in. And being in a 1A school, you're not blessed with a kicker like we had at Dora a couple years ago. We can't kick 50-yard field goals, So
Spradlin's, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't have a Spradlin on the sideline. So, when we get to the 20-yard line and it's 4th down, I can't look at my offensive coordinator and say, hey, we're good because we can kick it here. No, we can't. I mean, we got to score. So, I think Winston County's defense did a good job against us about bending, don't break. They had a really good stops. And those guys, I felt like their defense fed off the energy and success of other guys, which is really good, which is a good thing to have. Our guys started doing that towards the end of the year. A guy make a good play, we feed off of it, and when we get a sack, it's like the next play, we get a tackle for loss or we get another sack. It's just like it breeds enthusiasm. And I thought when they played us, they did a great job of doing that on defense. I'm not sure the number. I want to say it's 24. Plays linebacker. I think his last name, is it Moon? Maybe something like that.
Kane Moon.
Yeah, I think he's number 24. I think he played linebacker. He had a heck of a game against us for some crazy reason, man. I don't really know how they call certain things defensively. We just couldn't get a body on that guy. It was like if he didn't pressure, it's like our guy would second guess thinking he was going to pressure, and we just couldn't get somebody there, and he'd come wide open and make a tackle. Sometimes when we think that he wasn't going to pressure, and our guys would make a certain call on offensive line, they'd pressure him and he'd catch us. And, they'd get lucky and bam, he's hammered us. He had a really good game against us. So I think defensively, if they just have that same mentality of feeding off of each other, I think if 24 has a really good game at linebacker and they just continue bend but don't break, and obviously 21 has some good plays, they're going to have a really good football team. I think they have a chance to, make a couple rounds.
Now, this is a real gift for us because the next team that we want to highlight, you've played both of them.
Yes.
So give us your breakdown of these two teams from the head coach's perspective and how you see this matchup coming up.
Well, I think, Summit Christian, I think that guy, Coach Powell over there, which is no relation whatsoever. But anyways, I think he's done a great job at Summit Christian. When we were there, in 2015, 2016, when we first got there, it was like football wasn't important. And so our first year there was a struggle. Second year, we go 9-3. We make it the second round. Great year there. And then we leave and they kind of fall off again. And then he gets the job. He's in his second year. And I think he's done a great job, in my opinion, of getting those kids to be physical again. That's what we struggled with when we first got there. And we got those kids to be physical, and look what happened. We were successful. That's what he's done. Coach Powell's done a great job over there with that. He's also done a great job, being at McAdory for so long, that guy has seen everything. You're not going to do anything offensively or defensively that he probably hasn't seen. He's going to have an answer, all right? So I don't think you're going to be able to out-scheme him. I think you're just going to have to tough him, if you know what I'm saying, because his kids are going to be fired up. They've made the playoffs. He's going to have them very well prepared on who they're playing, and they're going against Berry. The thing about Berry is their kids that's probably been the best defense I've probably seen in 3 years. Mm-hmm. That defense flies to the ball. They have a number 60. I don't know his name. He plays defensive line. He might be in a 1 technique, 1 play. He might be in a 3 technique. He might be in a 5. They constantly move that guy around. I've never seen a guy in high school football, especially in 1A, grab a player that weighs over 250 and literally throw him to the side and go make a play.
Wow.
I mean, he is a man on the field. He completely wrecked the wing T against us hands down by himself. He was an animal. And then they have a linebacker, number 2, who's also their fullback, and he plays a little tailback. He flies to the football. I mean, so Summit and Christian, their offense versus Berry's defense, I think is going to be a little bit of a headbutt, but Berry's defense is going to get after it. I think Summit and Christian's going to have to get creative. They've got to get creative. They got to figure out a way. All right, do we have a guy that can block 60? Probably not. Do we have guys that can double team him? I don't know. Let's see if we can. If we can't double team him and we can't single block him, what are we going to do to not allow him to make plays? Because he's going to make plays. If you run at him, you might have to read him or run away from him. And then if you flip it over and you go Berry's offense against Summit and Christian's defense, Summit and Christian loaded the box against us. And I think they're going to do the same thing against Berry because Berry gets in some heavy sets. I think Summit and Christian is going to have to realize that Berry is going to run the football, and they're going to run it right at you. Number 2, in my opinion, is probably about 6'1", close to 240.
Wow.
And he probably runs a 5 flat. He's not super quick, but he's fast for a big guy. And when he runs the football, he is running over people. He's not looking to go east and west. He is north and south. And so for Summit and Christian's defense, they are going to have to stuff it and stuff it quick because if he gets ahead of steam, he's going to start running over some people, and that's what we struggle with. He is a hoss.
Jamie?
Talk about y'all's region. I mean,
for
Berry to be,
yeah.
I mean, Berry beat Pickens on the road.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a real, you think they have the ability to make a run here?
I do. And talking to Coach Hines, I think, I've never met him before, and we get to the field, and he's the first guy that walks up to me. He's asking me if we need anything, let him know. And we start kind of just talking ball. We talk about, how the seasons went. Great guy to talk to. But my thing is that Berry has a chance to be extremely successful this year. I really do. Like their defense, like I said, is probably the best defense, 3A and below, that I've seen in probably 5 years. Really good defense. They got really good players in certain areas that's really hard to be successful against. They got a stud defensive lineman that they're going to move around. You don't know where he's going to be. That's extremely a negative against you. They got a linebacker that's going to fly to the football, and you don't know if they're going to blitz him. You don't know if they're going to walk him down an A-gap. You don't know if they're going to send him off the edge. So they got 2 guys in the box that are so good that you're like, I don't know where it's going to line up. I don't know where they're going to come from. So that's huge for them. And then offensively, they've just got all the good pieces all in one for 1A football. They got a good run game. They got a quarterback that can throw. They got receivers that can catch. They got a tight end that's pretty tall that can catch as well. So not only when you run your zone coverage or man coverage, you're not just accounting for the receivers. You're accounting for the tight end, and then they're going to flare the back too. And if your linebacker isn't a really good athlete and he's got to go cover the back, oh man, you're done. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think Berry, and I'm pulling for them. I really am. They're out of our region. I hope they're really successful. But I do see them making a really good run here. And I haven't really paid attention to who's all left in the North in 1A, but our region, hands down, is really tough. Mm-hmm. I thought we had a really tough region. Brilliant had 13 seniors who's been starting since they were like in 8th grade. I mean, so they had a really good program. You've got Hubbartville, who Coach Harris been there 42 years. I mean, that guy knows high school football. Mm-hmm. So, they're always going to play tough. He's got that old school mentality. They're going to play tough. They were a really tough football program. You got South Lamar, who's got really good athletes that you got to worry about. You got Pickens, who obviously has been in the state championship game for a lot over the last 10 years. And then you got Berry, who's our region champs, who has a chance to be extremely successful. So with Berry going into the playoffs, they've seen better competition in our region than they will probably see in the first 2 rounds of football.
Right.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Coach, we absolutely enjoyed this. You brought such a wonderful perspective for it. we're going to be excited to watch Meek over the next couple of years. We know you guys are already getting started on your postseason, preseason already. And best of luck to you, and thank you for joining us.
All right, I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate
We'll
it.
be right back.
Southern Orthopedic PrepZone Game Time, driven by Carl Cannon. Presented by Kilgore Green Funeral Home. Nelson, Bryan and Cross. Bank of Walker County. Jasper Main Street. Southern Orthopedic. And Carl Cannon.
We're back, guys. James and Johnathan and Brian, as always, and we're talking about the Addison Bulldogs. Brian, you've probably seen them more than the rest of us. Tell us your thoughts on Addison this year.
Well, it's a more or less a really traditional Addison team that we've begun to know over the past 7 seasons. They have switched themselves to where they're passing maybe about 100 yards a game. They can do it more than that if necessary. But in order to keep defenses honest, they're throwing the ball around a lot more. And then we're seeing the traditional running from Addison. Good halfbacks, usually stocking a fullback in there, and a very mobile quarterback that can, have good versatility to do anything. I'm really seeing the emergence of also some good slot receivers for them. So as far as offense goes, it's becoming a little bit more diversified, though you're going to still see Addison run up in various formations, from anything from the I formation or the veer, all the way to just a plain shotgun. They can run out of everything. And defensively, of course, look, they can keep up with teams like Aliceville. They can, hold Winston County to less than 100 yards rushing. They've been against big dogs, and for defensively, I think they're going to be ready for the contest as well.
Right. Johnathan, what do you think of Addison so far this year?
Well, I mean, the good thing about Addison is they never have a guy. Usually, it's just spaced out.
Right.
If you look through the season, a bunch of guys with the same number of, running.
Yeah, you'll have like 4 guys with 500 yards rushing.
Yeah, they don't have an Austin Owens type. They've never had that.
Right.
It's always diversified. But it goes with Christian Roberts, quarterback, and he's been really, really good this year. They have struggled against those bigger teams, but I mean, I don't really know how much they were going for wins in those games. You know what I mean?
Right.
I remember when Cordova was really good, they went to Fayette and had a game like that where they lost by 30.
Right.
And then they ended up running through the playoffs. And hopefully, I think it was just mainly to get them ready for the playoffs.
Yeah.
After they lost in the first round last year.
Yeah. Well, and Addison, you know what you're going to get with Addison, kind of like Hale said. They're always going to be a very sound, fundamental team. They're not going to turn the ball over much. They're not going to have a lot of penalties. And they're going to play Addison football, which is, smash mouth, run it at you. Offensive line's always going to be tough. And then they play really solid defense. They don't do anything that's flashy. But, like you said, they've kind of changed their offense a little bit. They can throw the ball when they need to. I think it's going to be a really good game. Colbert County always is a program that's always in the playoffs. Addison did beat them. Was it last year they beat them?
Yes, it was 41-19, I believe.
Yeah.
I think they were in the same region last year.
Yeah, I think that was right, yeah. So the teams are familiar with each other. It's just, how much better has Colbert County gotten, or how much are we going to see Addison come out and want this game? Addison's used to being in the playoffs, but they did lose last year, so that should make them hungry, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was matchup last year. North Sand Mountain came in hot, and it was just a bad matchup for them.
That's right, yeah, they did come in hot. And that was weird for North Sand Mountain to be in that position to have to travel, too.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good team.
Yeah.
They won, I think, the next round, too.
Yeah, I think they did make it through 2 rounds, and, good football team that had to travel on the road. And we see that sometimes. Maybe that's what some of our other teams are going to do this week.
I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, let's go into our Player of the Week segment. A 2-timer. We've only had 2 so far. They're 2-time Player of the Weeks. We had Austin Owens from Winston County. And then this week, who we got?
We have Spencer Rosenfeld, quarterback for Jasper, who had a monster game in the closeout win over Bessemer City.
Right, and he only played a half. Finished with 286 or 268 yards, something like that. 5 touchdowns and a half. That's pretty strong. I just wish we could have seen what he could have done over a whole season because he missed well over a month. I think he missed 5 games.
You know what's crazy? I was doing the stats. He almost had 1,000 yards passing.
Right.
It was a 960, I think.
Yeah, and he may be our, we don't give anything away, but he might be our quarterback of the year and only played in 4 games.
Had 7 touchdowns. And remember how they went a long way through the season without throwing a passing touchdown. They ended up with 7.
Right. They went until game number
So Mortimer Jordan?
8, Mortimer Jordan, before they threw a touchdown pass. And so Rosenfeld really made a difference in that team, and they won 2 out of 3 to end the year. So
Big time.
you went over to Jasper and talked to Rosenfeld. Let's see what he has to say about winning the award for the 2nd time this year.
Welcome back, everybody, to our final regular season player of the week, and this one went out with a bang. In the Jasper Vikings 49-14 win over Bessemer City, he amassed 316 yards, throwing for 265 with 5 touchdowns, running for 51 yards on 4 carries. He connected with his receivers on passes of 27, 33, 67, 50, and 18 yards to help the Vikings jump out to a 42-0 lead. For the 2nd time this year, the Jasper Vikings Player of the Year, quarterback Spencer Rosenfeld. Spencer, congratulations once again. What an incredible way to end the year. You guys went 2 out of the 3 last wins, even racked up some really good points against a very formidable Pinson Valley team. How was it to end the year in these last 3 games like you did?
It was good. Lead the seniors off on a good start for their colleges, and I just heard Mason got an offer, didn't he? Mason got an offer. Good for him. I thought he was going to. And just start something new for next year.
With the trials and the tribulations that you've gone through this year, with not only the tougher opponents in region in Class 6A, but as well you coming back from an injury, how happy were you to walk off the field with just a good, solid, complete victory like you had on Friday night?
It was a great feeling, honestly. The doctor didn't even think I was going to be just as good as he thought I was going to do. He didn't know if I was going to be able to play for the last 3 games, honestly. And just to go out and show what I need to do, and I don't know, about it.
With the guys in front of you helping to block, hold the line for you. Also, when you had to scramble, they're opening the holes, and your receivers. Just a complete victory. What can you say about the guys around you and how they performed on Friday night?
It was a great night for everybody. I mean, Hayden Yerby, I've only threw 1 touchdown to him, I think. Give him another touchdown, I was pretty sure he was happy about it. I mean, the kid just started this year. It's great. Kevon, always a great athlete. JP threw him a touchdown this year. It's good. The line was great. Probably the best game they ever blocked.
Well, congratulations, Spencer. I know you guys will definitely be looking forward to getting into the preseason for next year, getting everything worked out and coming out strong next year, but congratulations.
Thank you.
And a big welcome back, everybody. And now we have a very special guest with us once again. This is Coach Justin Palmer of the Cordova Blue Devils, who has joined us today to talk a little bit about his season and what he also saw in his games with both the Dora Bulldogs and the Oakman Wildcats. Coach, first and foremost, so many people will look at your season and the record of 1-9, know they had a down season. What they don't understand is the closeness of these games just can't be undersold. Against Dora, you guys were driving in the last 4 minutes of the game, moving it very well, could have punched that in, and that could have been a very different game. A 1-point loss to John Carroll, we don't even need to say anything more about that. Against Winona, 28-21, just a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Carver, this was a game that was 17-14. This could have gone a different direction. And Oakman, people may say, well, it was a 12-0 shutout. The first score of the game was not until just basically the last couple of minutes of the third quarter. This is a season that people have to realize. This is probably just literally a handful of plays away from you guys finishing 6-4. What were your thoughts on the way that this season had so much potential and your guys really responded to having to go from Class 4A to 5A?
I think you nailed it right there, just a handful of plays away from our record being very different. But, unfortunately, some things didn't go our way. And, there were times this year where we felt like, man, the ball never bounces our way. And for whatever reason, and, a lot of that is we were just a little overmatched. Sometimes it feels like you're not getting any luck, but, the best way to be lucky is to make your own luck sometimes, and we just weren't, good enough in a lot of those games to make our own luck. But proud of the kids. We didn't quit in any of those games, even the ones where you just went over the close ones. We had some that weren't very close, and we didn't quit in those games, and just really proud of our team and our players. And, we know the things that we have to work on. We've been doing player evaluations over this week, and there are 2 categories that I think if we improve as individuals, then we'll improve as a team, and our record will be better. And I think we'll have more fun as a team too, because it's not a whole lot of fun when you're losing games. But I think it is encouraging that we were in all of those ball games that you just mentioned, and I think we've got a chance to improve on our record next year because we're right there.
Johnathan?
Coach, how big was it to lay the foundation this season going forward?
It was important, but it was also very difficult coming in late, having such a tough schedule. And then dealing with COVID and everything too, it was difficult. But I think the seniors did their best that they could in order to lay that foundation for what the expectations are for the program and what our coaching staff looks for in a team. It took a little while to get that, and I think there were some changes that had to be made and adjustments and things like that as far as just how we do things that they really weren't used to. So, it was important. It's something that has to be done. You just kind of wish that you don't go 1-9 when you're laying that foundation, but that's part of it. It's there now. Next year, that coming in late and dealing with COVID and all of that won't be an excuse. The kids will know what to expect. The schemes will be in, all of that stuff. So, next year I expect us to be better.
Talk about some of these kids. Are a lot of these coming back for next season?
We had a lot of guys, young guys playing, but we did have a lot of seniors and spots that were important in our center. Elijah Kilpatrick, he's gone. Obviously, he's a good player on both sides of the ball. Adam O'Rear is another one that was so good all over the field doing offense, defense, special teams, everything. So we've got some guys that we'll have to replace that were really good players. But a lot of young guys got a good experience, and of course playing against really good competition all year should just make them better for next year.
Right.
Coach, when you take a look at 2020 and all the craziness from all the things that we mentioned before, what is your biggest thing that you've taken away from this year? In terms of maybe even your own personal growth or what you've seen from the players that has turned kind of the students into the teachers for you for a moment. What's your biggest takeaway from 2020?
There were so many times where I just said, well, this is not fun. I don't want to do it. This is miserable. You question, well, why am I even coaching? What are we doing? And then you think, that's what we, as coaches, that's what we tell the kids all the time is you don't quit when things get tough. But there were so many times where, we could have just said, hey, we can't play this week. COVID issues, whatever. I mean, there were 2 weeks where we coached with 3 guys because our coaching staff was all out due to contact tracing. And those were really difficult weeks. But, man, the kids handled those weeks so well, and they didn't let that bother them, and it really inspired me. And, yes, it was difficult as a coach to go through a season where you only win 1 game. But when you look at how our players handled it, there's no excuse for me as a coach not to handle it just like they did.
Well, let's kind of segue into that, to your first game, Dora. And, of course, like so many times, there wasn't one of those game tapes from the previous week when you're dealing with the kickoff season. You're also looking at the fact that they are moving down a classification. You don't know who they got back from injury. And when you look back at that Dora game, what did you take away from your first game against Dora and your first game as the head coach and what you saw from them?
I think about how difficult that was to game plan when the best film we had was the game against Cordova a calendar year. Before that, it was worthless, really, because they were completely different, in my opinion, than what they were this year. So, just trying to get ready for that game was so difficult. I got here in June, trying to put everything together, and no 7-on-7. The first time I saw my team against another opponent was the biggest game of the year to the people of Cordova, and that's tough. That was really tough because you've got kids out there that maybe they've looked really good at practice, but sometimes when the lights come on, they're not ready, and you don't know that until the lights are on, and you can't figure that out in our little inter squad scrimmage that we had. That's meaningless too. So we went in blind, basically, and Dora was the more physical team and the better prepared team, and they beat us. I thought we did some good things in that game, but that was so long ago. Our offense became completely different throughout the year. Our defense played pretty well that night, but people moved around in different spots, and a guy that really became one of our better players on defense and the leader of the team, I think, Jacob Kilgore, he didn't even start that game because, he had not done what he needed to do in summer workout, so he wasn't starting. And the guy that was in there was a young guy, and he wasn't ready to play. But, we were in that situation, and, a couple mistakes later, it's like, well, had this guy been doing what he needed to do, he would have been in there. We probably don't give up this touchdown. So lessons learned in that first game. I think it was a good lesson learned for our whole team about how the actions of one guy, can affect the entire team. And then that kid really changed and like I said, became a leader of the team. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of this season was Jacob Kilgore and his progress that he made during the year. So, but it was neat. It was a cool atmosphere. You didn't know how many people were going to be there with seating capacity and all that stuff, but great crowd on both sides, had the weather delay and all that. And, of course, I've kept up with Dora. I always keep up with who we play. And, they went on to have a pretty good year. I know they had to drop a game or two maybe because of COVID, which in the end has hurt them in their playoff seeding, I think.
Was there any particular thing that really impressed you when you looked at when you were at the game, when you saw that they were on the field, they were moving it, and also something that you guys were able to effectively do against them?
Well, our run game was not effective in we're a zone read team, so our give reads were not there. They were hitting our guys in the mouth, but we were able to get some pull reads and throw it on the outside there, and that was really the thing we did best. Their offense, that night it went through their running back, I think number 11, he's really good. I think that will be key for them this week, obviously, is getting him going. But if they can get their passing game to complement him a little bit, I think they would be really dangerous in the playoffs. I guess that's to be seen, though, if they can do that. I don't really know if they've been able to the rest of this year or not. I just know he was really good against us, and I know he made one long touchdown run where we missed one tackle, and he was gone. So super talented guy. I would imagine, though, Madison Academy's probably got that in the game plan to stop number 11. So Dora will have to come up with something else if they want to be able to move the ball against them.
JB?
Coach, you've been a coach a while. How big a deal is it when you travel far away like that for a playoff game?
It's tough because your normal schedule, usually you're traveling, an hour away or so for all of your games. Mm-hmm. And then, you got one that's a little bit of a haul, and now your road game schedule that the players are used to, it's changing. And, when you're dealing with teenagers, if you change something just a little bit,
oh yeah,
it can throw them off big time. So, that'll be important for them, how their players handle a schedule change and a longer bus ride, and playing in it's probably going to be a little bit of an intimidating, stadium atmosphere, and how they can handle that will be key too.
Well, Coach, let's go literally from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, the final game of the season. Here we have against Oakman, and preparation is, of course, a lot more different, not only from the aspect that you have game tape on them, but this is a much more diverse offense that you faced. They are a defense that can create a lot of turnovers, both by the fact that they pass rush so effectively, and on top of that, their secondary is extremely good. What was your takes away from the game against Oakman and what they did effectively?
Well, when they came out to warm up, I looked at one of my coaches and I said, "How have they lost 3 games?" They look really good. They've got some kids that jump out at you when you look at them, and then they're good football players too. I think that they, sometimes there are bumps in the road along the way where you're trying to figure things out, or somebody has a bad game or whatever it is. All of their games except for Gordo, their other 2 losses were really close, where, they just probably didn't play their best game. I don't think they're a typical 4 seed. I think they have a lot of talent, and Fife's probably going to be a little surprised at how talented they are when they get over there. But I think they're a good football team. I really do. I think that if any 4 seeds have a chance to win Friday night, I think they do.
JP?
Right. How big a deal? I mean, that's another long haul. But what do you think they'll have to do to compete?
They changed their offense up a little bit. They were running that overload stuff where they were, just mostly running the ball. And, we actually thought that they were better when they were in the spread. So having a week where they did that, that's all they did against us. And having, a good game like that to practice that, and I would assume they're going to use that moving forward. I could be wrong, but I think they were really good in that. I think their quarterback is good enough to make the throws, and they've got some really good receivers too. And then running the ball, they didn't run it great against us, but I think they can. I think that's something that they'll be able to do, moving forward. But they played really good against defense, on defense against us too, and created some turnovers. I think that will be key, this week, is they'll have to get some turnovers. They'll have to stop the run against Fife. That'll be key, which they did that really good against us. But we had become, mostly a passing team anyway, so it wasn't too difficult to stop the run against us. But they can't turn the ball over. They need to create some turnovers. And then I think special teams will be a big factor too. If they can win the battle in special teams and win in that area, that'll give them a leg up in the game against a really good opponent.
Well, Coach, on behalf of Johnathan, we appreciate so much that you came in and gave us the perspective not only on the opponents but also on the season overall. And we look forward very much to seeing the Blue Devils next year.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I think the show is a pretty cool thing. It's neat for high school football in our area. So we appreciate you guys doing this.
Thank you.
All right, we're back, and it's time for us to make our picks for the week. Not as many picks this week. We've only got 5 games, but they're 5 important games because if they lose, season's over.
One and done at this point.
One and done. Mm-hmm. Where do we want to start at?
Let's start here.
You want to start down there? Start with Addison since they're the only team hosting. All right, what do you got, Jonathan?
Well, last year, North Sand Mountain came here and beat them in the first round.
That's right.
And this is not an easy, to be a number 2, this is a tough matchup.
Yeah.
I mean, Colbert County is known for football and not much else. So Addison.
Didn't Colbert come out of that region with Red Bay and was that the region they were in?
I think that's they would
They were in the region with Red Bay and Mars Hill.
Yes.
And that's the two of the teams they lost to was Red Bay and Mars Hill.
Mars Hill is very, very good this year.
Right.
I mean, both those are.
Right.
So this is a really good matchup. This will be tough for Addison.
Yeah.
They've struggled at times. They've had really big games. But I think their schedule got them ready. So I'm taking Addison in that one.
There you go, Brian. What do you think?
Well, I had this game last year, and I think Addison has improved a lot since last year in just about every facet. And some of their losses is because they're playing on the schedule. They're playing much, much, much bigger schools and non-region play. I honestly think that Addison takes this. This last year, Addison took Colbert County 41-19.
Right.
And I can see, I don't think it's going to be that much of a blowout, but I see Addison's going to take this pretty easily.
Right.
So I'm going with Addison.
So both of you guys have the Bulldogs moving on to the second round.
You know, I will mention they played Good Hope, Hamilton, and Haleyville.
Yeah, I mean
That's
that
a
is
2A school.
Very tough stretch right there.
And lost to Aliceville
Right.
on the road, and overtime was the other game.
Right. That is a tough. That's a brutal 4 games right there.
Yeah.
You know, I just feel like I'm going to be a Debbie Downer here. I'm going with Colbert County. I don't have any reason to go with Colbert County. I think, you know, both teams have played a tough schedule. Colbert County lost to the 2 better teams that were in that region. I just feel like Addison may come out flat, and Colbert County will pick up the win. And I needed to gain a game on you too. So this was what I thought might be my best chance to gain a game on the Olympics too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that's a tough game.
All right, let's go on. We'll just work our way down the table here. How about Dora going to Madison Academy? Madison Academy, you mentioned they dropped back down, and they're undefeated. We saw them last year come over. They gave Jasper a pretty good game for a while, but just didn't have the horses in 5A. So what do you think about Dora and Madison Academy?
You know, Dora really was hurt by COVID this year. Those last 2 games, I don't know if they'd have won them. It was Good Hope and Etowah. They might not have, but it'd been nice to have that chance.
Right.
And now they're stuck at 4 where they could have been 2.
Right.
And that's just a brutal trip. I mean, it would take a lot of things going awry for Madison Academy, I believe.
Right.
Maybe turnovers. I mean, Dora has some athletes. And it was good to get back on the field before the playoffs last week, even though they lost. Put up a ton of points.
Right.
But that's just a tough trip, so I'm going Academy in that one.
All right, Al.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to further on that. I really didn't like what I saw from Dora last week. They put up a ton of points, but they also gave up 55.
Right.
That's not going to work against a playoff team. The COVID, I was hoping that we would see Dora after the 2 weeks off of COVID come out, be regenerated, be rejuvenated. It wasn't the case.
Right.
So this really worries me, that long trip. As good as Madison Academy is, I'm going to have to go with Madison Academy in this one.
Well, I agree with you guys. I hate to pick against Dora ever, but if you give up 50-something points to West Blockton, Madison Academy has an offense that can move the ball and move it quickly and score quickly. They've got a quarterback and a running back that are both going to be Division I prospects. They've got 2 or 3 guys on defense that are Division I prospects. I got to go with Madison Academy in this one too. All right, Brian, let's go to your end of the table now. You want to start with Oakman Wildcats.
This might, to me, be the most interesting matchup that we have. Fife, I know, has had a whole lot of success the past couple of years. That was in Class 2A.
Right.
They haven't played the Gordos this year. They haven't had to line up against Winfield. And the region that Fife is in is, to me, is very top-heavy. The
Right.
2 top teams.
Yeah.
And then everybody else is just kind of a jumble after that. Look, because it's the long trip and because I believe that Fife has a lot more confidence and positivity coming in this game, I'm taking Fife. I think it's going to be immensely close, but if Oakman were to pull off an upset, I would not really be that surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a shocker. They've done it before as a 3 seed on a long road trip. Johnathan, what do you think?
No, I don't. Fife by a lot. I mean, 140 straight.
Right. They have 140 straight.
I know it is 2A to 3A.
Right.
Oakman, if they were clicking, maybe I think it would be closer. I mean, they had 2 touchdowns last week against Cordova.
Right.
They're throwing the ball a lot now.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
They've kind of changed their offense
Right.
since the loss to Vinemont. I think that they did that they made a point to let's move the ball, and they're throwing it a lot more. They just have to, I mean, I really wish they had a better matchup. It'd be nice if they were at home.
Right.
This tiebreaker system is a joke in the state.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
we can say
It
that
is,
pretty.
definitely.
And now if they beat Vinemont, we don't have to worry about it.
Right.
But Vinemont beating Cold Springs played a big, I mean, that really hurt Oakman.
Right. Oakman plays
And
a
Oakman
team
played
like
Gordo.
to get you ready for playing
hurt them,
playoff
yes.
football, and then you have Vinemont playing Cold Springs. You know.
Had Oakman.
and we all know how Cold Springs is. We could put this team right here together and beat Cold Springs.
a normal season.
Right.
But I mean, if they played Cold Springs instead of Gordo, they would be at home.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with both of you guys. I feel like Oakman has been one of our better teams in the area, and they played in a tough region. There are 5
They did.
teams in that region that are pretty good football teams. But I just think Fife is such a just juggernaut that there's, it's going to be really tough for Oakman to go there and win that game. If I'm with you, if they'd have got the tiebreaker and they were the number 2 seed playing the 3 seed from a weaker region, I say they win that one easy. But having to go to Fife, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah. And Tennessee, the tiebreaker is the best record.
Right.
So there would be the 2.
Right.
Well,
Well,
here, this state, I mean, it might as well be it should be a coin toss before it's.
we can't
what it is.
expect the High School Athletic Association in Alabama to do anything that makes a lot of sense. But
That's the truth.
we'll see. We'll see. Okay, let's go, Brian, our next one. Sumter Christian.
Well, this is also a little bit of an interesting matchup to me as well because Barry has run through a lot of competition. Some of it good, some of it pretty weak. I don't think they've been quite as weathered as Sumter Christian. That being said, though, I think Barry goes ahead and takes this one. The only way that Sumter Christian really has a good shot at this one is to shut down any kind of run that Barry has had and make them pass. Sumter Christian has an absolutely terrific pass defense. They have picked the ball off a lot. If they can shut down that run, they have opportunities, but I see Barry's probably going to grind this and grind it to a victory.
Right. Johnathan, what do you think?
I kind of see Barry, like we're talking about, Oakman's in a good region. Barry is.
Right.
I mean, they have to go through Pickens, and they beat them.
Yeah, they did beat Pickens this year, which was a tall task at any time.
And Sumter Christian was so close, kind of like Oakman, to being a higher seed.
Right.
I mean, they lost to Woodville with double overtime. Those games, it was Cedar Bluff by 2.
Right.
I mean, they win those 2, they're at home.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is tough. Barry's really good this year.
Well, and I agree with you. Barry's tough. I think Sumter Christian, for them to be able to stay in the game, their offense is going to have to be able to move the football, get first downs, keep Barry's offense off the field. Because I think Sumter Christian's defense can hang with Barry, but you can't keep your defense on the field all night. The offense is going to have to move the ball and not turn the ball over, because that's something that Summerton has done this year, is turn the ball over a pretty good bit. I had a little more confidence in them before last week. They fell behind 22-0 to Meek. Now, they did show a lot of guts in coming back, scoring 24 unanswered points and win that game. But I've got to go against them and go with Berry this week, too.
Yeah, I can see it as well.
All right, Winston County.
Well, Winston County, of course, we know what they bring to the table. They're going to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Red Bay is one of those teams that they're very tough.
Right.
Games on the road, they play in a tough region. Unless Winston County can come out, and they did it last week, they started throwing the ball around. They're going to have to keep the defense of Red Bay honest.
Right.
I don't see it happening, so I'm going with Red Bay.
Right. Jonathan?
I also went Red Bay, but I think that will be the closest game we have out of all these.
Yeah.
They went there 2 years ago and lost by 2 in overtime. So, I mean, they can play with this team.
Yeah.
They are going to run the ball. And 2 years ago, they did the same thing.
Right.
They handed the ball off to Owens.
Right.
Who should be a back of the year candidate, by the way, in 2A.
Definitely should in 2A.
1774 is his yardage, and he had a game missed for COVID.
Right. And he scored 22 touchdowns?
22 rushing touchdowns.
Just rushing.
25 total, I think.
Right.
Returns. But I did take Red Bay. It's just hard to go on the road in the playoffs against a team like that.
Right. And I did the same thing. I think Red Bay, their region is tough. If Colbert County's the 3 seed, they're traditionally a good team. And then Red Bay's only loss, of course, Mars Hill beat them pretty bad. But Mars Hill is very good.
Not your typical 2A.
No. They can beat most teams that are in 3A, 4A, 5A, even play with a 6A school like Jasper. So I'm with you guys. I'm going with Red Bay, but I do think this will be our kind of close game. I think Winston County hangs in there. Owens is that good a player. I agree with you. If he's not in the finalists for the 2A back of the year, something's wrong, because this kid has carried this team on his back for at least 3 years now. I think he even played as a freshman.
Yeah, he did.
So he's had some outstanding stats, and what a great player. Well, guys, that does it for the picks. The way that I have things figured out is that we won't have anybody left next week. And you guys have it figured out that we're going to have one team left after this week, which is shame on us, I guess. But
Hell, I'd like 5-0.
I'd love 5-0.
Yeah, I would, too.
I'd love
That would be
5-0,
something.
but I'm realistic.
But it's 2020.
Right, it is 2020, and this has not been our greatest of football seasons, even only having 5 teams. But, congratulations to all these teams that did make the playoffs. Each one of our teams have overcome something this year, whether it's being out with COVID for 2 weeks. It's, having to fight through after you've been, Sumter Christian's record the last 3 years has not been very good. Addison, you've seen them with a tough schedule. Oakman with a tough schedule. Winston County, they rely on Owens so much that that's a big thing to overcome sometimes, but they've done it. And I think every one of these coaches right here should be in the running for our Coach of the Year award. All of them have done an excellent job to be able to get them to the playoffs. And if I'm not mistaken, I know these teams were not in the playoffs last year.
Correct.
Yeah.
Did Winston County make it last year?
Yeah,
They
they
did.
Did they do?
Yeah.
Okay, they were like 4 seed last year. And we know Addison's there
Always
every
in
year, and
playoffs.
Oakman's been there for a decade. So, but a good job by all these coaches. Brian, you talked about the coaches this week in a column, and we all agree with you that this bunch that we've had this year, considering everybody's gone through and COVID and that sort of thing, they've been really easy to deal with and easy to work with.
Oh, yeah. By far, at least my favorite crop, as far as they're always very accessible. They always want to promote the good deeds of their kids on and off the field.
Right.
And have really brought something special to us.
Right. Well, and we also want to thank Coach Palmer and Coach Powell for coming in this week and kind of giving us their expert analysis on 4 of the teams that we're talking about. So thank you to you guys as well. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back at least one more week with a preview or a wrap up, whatever you want to call it. We'll see how it goes. And then later in December, we'll do our award show where we give out awards for each player for positions and that sort of thing.
Then it's basketball season.
Yeah, basketball's starting up. I think we got some games this week, really, and wrestling season.
Yep.
So you guys will stay busy covering those sports. Anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
And Alabama and Auburn's off this week.
And UAB
And-
also off.
We don't have any football in the state. You know, Troy, South Alabama, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, well, hey, until our wrap-up show, when you hear me and Brian talking about the games, we'll see you then. Thanks for watching, and see you on Saturday morning.